Welcome back to Andersen Acres. Today we're diving into something colorful, fragrant, and oh so satisfying. Starting your very own cutting garden. Now, before anybody asks, let me tell you, hi vodka, let me tell you what a cutting garden is. A cutting garden, specifically, is a garden that is planted in your yard or on your balcony or wherever you happen to be with the specific intent of plucking or cutting the flowers when they bloom. Okay, so you're going to cut the flowers when they bloom, bring them inside, and put them in a vase. Not everybody wants to do this. Let's be clear about that. Not everyone wants to even bring cut flowers into their home. They might want potted plants in their home. They might not want plants inside at all. That's all valid. But if you like having vases with flowers in them, then it might be worth planting a cutting garden. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I already grow flowers in my garden. Why do I need a separate cutting garden? Well, if you've ever hesitated to snip blooms from your main flower beds because you didn't want to ruin that gorgeous display outside, a cutting garden could be the solution you're looking for. A cutting garden allows you to enjoy the fresh bouquets inside and keep your beautiful outdoor beds looking beautiful, because those are your display beds. Those are the beds you see all the time. The cutting garden tends to be a little more out of the way, right? So that you know that it's there, and you're taking care of it, and you're ready for it to bloom, but you know that you're going to harvest the blooms and display them inside. So there's an intention to it, and intention matters. So, why have a cutting garden? Part of the joy of growing flowers is being able to bring them indoors, brightening up our kitchen table, or adding fragrance to the living room, or even gifting a bouquet to a friend. And while you can mix cutting flowers into your regular beds, having a dedicated space means you can cut freely without guilt, and you don't have to think, should I cut this one or not so much? You know that you planted those flowers to cut. You don't have to feel guilty about it. You can plant varieties that thrive on being picked, and you can focus on blooms that last well in a vase. So, the best part, a cutting garden doesn't need to be fancy or designed in order to be beautiful, in order to be functional. Okay? It's not ornamental. It is literally all about functional. So, think in straight rows, not decorative curves. This makes planting, weeding, and harvesting faster and easier. Taller plants should go to the north side so they won't shade the shorter ones. So this is north for me. So I would have tall plants, and then medium plants, and then shorter plants. So everybody gets the sun they need. I don't have to worry so much about aesthetics. I can instead focus on the needs of the plant, and I can tell myself this is where they go because that's the optimal growing situation for them, and I'm cutting off the heads anyway. So, if you have the room, consider adding at least one rose bush. Could be a hybrid tea, floribunda, a shrub type. It doesn't, whatever you have the space for. There are some rose bushes that are really large and some that are quite small in size. So whatever you've got the room for. But consider adding a rose bush because most people don't regret it, okay? Roses are classic cutting flowers that keep rewarding you if you pick regularly. A rose bush that has flowers removed in full bloom will do better than one that is just left for the heads to fall off on their own. It's almost designed for cutting. So there are certain plants that are designed for cutting, and one of them is the rose. So if you have the space and the ability, put in a rose bush or two. You won't regret it, as long as you like roses. If you do not like roses, you might consider not putting a rose bush in. And here's a fun fact. Many annuals and perennials produce more flowers the more you cut them. Okay, it's not just rose. It's like they take it as a personal challenge. Cosmos, for example, will actually stop flowering if you don't pick them often enough. In a cutting garden, you get to enjoy the blooms twice. Once in the garden and once in the vase in the house. It's a lot of fun. Now, when building your plant list, Aim for a mix of annuals, perennials, and bulbs. This gives you a longer season of blooms and more variety in your arrangement, and a range of colors and textures. So, annuals, there are quite a few good annuals. Think ones that you like. You want to like the look of them. But ones I would suggest are calendula, China aster, China pinks, cosmos. I think I mentioned earlier. A lot of different forms of daisy, larkspur, pansy, the Shirley poppy, snapdragons. They're my dad's favorite, so we always have snapdragons. Think sweet pea, sweet william, zinnias. All of these work really, really well in a cutting garden because they thrive on being snipped. Okay. And perennials, the ones that come back year after year, there's a whole bunch of them as well. Think baby's breath, balloon flower, bellflower, black-eyed Susans, butterfly weed, coral bells, cottage pinks. I like cottage pinks. Feverfew, if you like it. I'm not a fan. Globe thistle, obedient plant, the purple coneflower. I like coneflowers. They are really good in a cutting garden. Don't forget yarrow. Yarrow can be really nice in a garden, but again, make sure you're looking at each individual plant and figure out if you like the look. Because if you don't like the look of the plant, you're not going to want to cut it and put it in your house. So look at the flowers before you actually get the plant. So if you need to, Google what they look like. And then there are your spring and summer flowering bulbs. They kind of give you extra flair in the garden, and they extend the life of your bouquet because they actually last longer as cuttings, as cut flowers than a lot of others. You might want to look at calla lilies if they grow in your region, daffodils, dahlias, lilies, a lot of lily of the valley. Tulips are my mom's favorite, so we have tulips a lot. But figure out which bulbs and which annuals and which perennials you might like to include in a bouquet and mix and match. Okay. Again, you're not necessarily planting this garden for aesthetics. You're planting it for a purpose. So you can tuck it out of the way as long as it gets plenty of sun and water. It'll be fine. And you look after it much as you do any other garden. You just make sure you are snipping the plants as you go, right? That's what you're doing. It's a cat. A couple of cats. You got cats back there. So, some practical tips for success. Plant for succession, meaning stagger your sowing times for annuals so you have a continuous supply of blooms. Don't plant everything in May to pick in July. Plant some in May, some in June, some in July, and then you can have those flowers throughout the summer. You want to feed and water well. Cutting flowers are working hard, so make sure they have the nutrients they need to keep producing. And you want to harvest at the right time. Cut in the cool of the morning and choose blooms that are just starting to open for longer vase life. So if you want them to last in the vases longer. If you cut them right at peak bloom, like right when they're the biggest, you will get shorter life, but they'll be so pretty. So is there a right or wrong here? Not necessarily. I like to pick a little earlier, cut them a little earlier just because it means I'll get them longer in the house. But if you'd prefer to pick them at peak bloom and then discard them sooner, that's fine too. You want to keep your tools handy because every time you go out there, you're going to see something you want to snip, right? So a sharp pair of snips and a clean bucket of water make harvesting quick and easy. When you do harvest, snip into the water, okay? Transport them in the bucket of water. Don't transport them dry. That's not fair. Even if you're just walking 20 feet back to your house, put them in water, leave them in that water until you're ready to trim the bottoms and assemble your bouquet. They are always better if they are in water as long as possible. And a little plant food doesn't hurt either. And think about color and texture. Mix focal flowers like your, your what? What do you like? Tulips are my favorite focal flower, with fillers like baby's breath and interesting foliage from some of your other plants. Yes, you can plant foliage plants in your cutting garden as well. I don't plant foliage in my cutting garden, mostly because I have so much foliage that I really enjoy that I've interspersed here. I can just grab it anytime. It is so full and lush because I've planted so much so close together. So full and lush, I don't have to worry about it. But if you are worried about it, you might want to plant some greenery in your cutting garden so you have some really beautiful greenery to take as well. Now, you don't have to be snipping blooms to enjoy your cutting garden. Watching the rows fill in, seeing the colors pop, and knowing you have fresh flowers waiting whenever you want them, that's part of the joy. The idea is a part of the joy. You can still walk through, note what's thriving, and plan for next season's planting. Even if you don't necessarily harvest all of your blooms for display, the knowledge that you could is awesome. That's about it for me here today at Andersen Acres. If you've ever thought about growing your own bouquets, I hope this inspires you to set aside a space for your very own cutting garden this year or next. Have you grown one before? If so, I'd love to hear your favorite plants for cuttings in the comments. We'll see you tomorrow.